We are a few weeks out from the 2025 MLB Draft, and that is going to mark 7 years since the 2018 MLB Draft. So for the first regrade of MLB Drafts on this channel, yeah, we're going to be doing the 2018 class. And honestly, this is a wild draft class to look back on, and you can really see some of the talented guys that went later in this draft, and just some of the guys that went in the first round that turned into all-stars, and some guys don't even have a single inning or at-bat in their major league career. So we're going to start off with the #1 overall pick, the Detroit Tigers. They had a couple #1 overall picks in this span, and they took the pitcher out of Auburn, Casey Mize. Casey Mize is 28 years old, and he's having the best start to his career here in 2025. It finally felt like he was putting it all together. He debuted in the COVID season, but really struggled in those 7 starts. In 2021, though, he had a 3.4 BWAR, a 3.71 ERA in 150 innings, and looked like the start of a breakout, but struggled in just 10 innings in 2022, and then hit the shelf in 2023 with Tommy John surgery. He was rehabbing more so in 2024, but in 102 innings, a 4.49 ERA, and this year has 6 wins, a 2.53 ERA in 42 innings. Honestly, I'm going to give this a B. I'm still trying to figure out my grading system for these MLB regrades, just because you're looking back at these players' careers. Have they done anything in the majors? Have they just had one good year? But I think for this top 10 as a whole, Casey Mize has an argument to being the best player overall. So no matter whoever they took there with the #1 overall pick, they could have ended up being a bust. But yeah, we are going to go with Casey Mize getting a B here for the #1 overall pick, if it looks like he's the real deal from the start to his 2025 season. And #2 was a catcher to the San Francisco Giants out of Georgia Tech. At one point, he was supposed to be the next Buster Posey for them, and that is Joey Bart. Joey Bart ended up debuting in the 2020 season like Casey Mize to a 609 OPS, a 68 OPS plus, and at a 233 batting average. He had a 0.0 WAR in 2021, but barely played that season. 2022, though, he had the best year of his career, a 660 OPS, 215 batting average, 11 home runs, and in 2023 was a negative player in terms of WAR. He ended up getting traded to the Pittsburgh Pirates in the 2024 offseason for Austin Strickland, and he's actually been a lot better with Pittsburgh than he was for San Francisco. He did 799 OPS in the 2024 season, 2.2 BWAR in 80 games. This year he's got a 711 OPS and a 262 batting average. I'm going to give this a C-. I do think Bart is going to be around for a while. Does he live up to the hype of a #2 overall pick? Absolutely not, but it could have been a lot worse. With the #3 overall pick, the Philadelphia Phillies took somebody out of Wichita State, a third baseman by the name of Alec Bohm, one of the very few all-stars that we're going to talk about in this regrade. He was an all-star for the Phillies in 2024, given his hot start. Like Bart, like Mize, debuted in that COVID season in 2020 and looked like he was the third baseman for the future. He finished second in NL Rookie of the Year voting outside of Devin Williams, who was not a first-round pick, so we won't talk about him today. Then Alec Bohm in 2021 was a -1.2 win player. It was an abysmal season both on offense and on defense, and he's been roughly around a 750 OPS guy since. This year in 2025, he's got a 667 OPS, a 264 batting average. Still not a great defender, and definitely had his best year in 2024 where he was a 3-win player. I'm going to give Alec Bohm a B, just because the rest of this top 10, like I said, is not very good. He's at least made an all-star, the only all-star out of anybody here in the top 10. And then with the 4th overall pick, the White Sox took a 5'7" shortstop by the name of Nick Madrigal out of Oregon State. Madrigal ended up debuting for the White Sox in the 2020 season, so everybody debuted so far here in 2020, and got off to a really good start in his career, but it pretty much went downhill when he was included in the Craig Kimbrel trade in the 2021 season. He was traded along with Cody Hoyer to the Cubs for Craig Kimbrel, and his average definitely dipped a little bit since becoming a Chicago Cub. 249 batting average in 2022, 263 batting average in 2023, and a 221 batting average in 2024. He was going to be a New York Met this season, but suffered a shoulder injury in spring training, so he is out for all of his age 28 season. I'm going to give this a D. Madrigal did have his moments in the MLB, but it's tough to think that he's going to be a full-time starter going forward, and he was drafted 4th overall. Jonathan India was drafted as a third baseman out of the University of Florida, 5th overall by the Cincinnati Reds, and ended up finishing #1 in Rookie of the Year voting in 2021, so he debuted a year after everybody else here in the top 5, but he beat out Trevor Rogers for that NL Rookie of the Year award. He had an 835 OPS, a 367 batting average, 21 home runs, 12 stolen bases, and 143 hits. but he peaked so far in his rookie year. He was a negative WAR player in 2022, and then was a little bit better in 2023 and 2024, and was traded for somebody we're going to get to in a little bit in the 2024 offseason. And so far this year for the Kansas City Royals is a negative WAR player as well. If he was going to replicate every single year what he did in 2021, this would have been an A, but he has not. It's been downhill since. I'm giving this pick a C+. Definitely better than Joey Bart and Nick Madrigal, but not as good in my opinion than Casey Mize or Alec Bohm. Number 6 overall, the New York Mets selected Kelenic out of high school in Wisconsin, and he never played a single game for the New York Mets because he was included shortly after this in the following December in the Edwin Diaz trade. He was traded by the Mets along with Jay Bruce, Justin Dunn, Anthony Swarzak, and Gerson Batista for Robinson Cano, that albatross of a contract, Edwin Diaz, and cash. Kelenic was supposed to be the next great outfielder in Major League Baseball, and Mets fans, including me, were very upset that we traded him away, but he never panned out. P. Crow Armstrong was everything Jarred Kelenic was supposed to be as a former Met getting traded. Kelenic had a 615 OPS and a 181 batting average as a rookie in 2021. He was a negative WAR player, 1.6 negative WAR that season, struck out 106 times, even worse in a smaller sample size in 2022, and then was a 2.1 WAR player in 2023. Looked like he was finally breaking out, but he did end up getting injured that season. If you remember, he punched a water cooler. In 2024, he ended up on the Atlanta Braves. He had a 679 OPS, and this year for the Atlanta Braves, a negative 0.6 OPS in 23 games, and was recently sent down by the Atlanta Braves. I'm going to give this pick a D. Kelenic has had one solid season in his career, but you never know. He could still end up being an okay player. Still just 25 years old since he was drafted out of high school. The San Diego Padres had the 7th overall pick, and they took Ryan Weathers out of high school as well, out of Tennessee. Ryan Weathers was traded by the Padres after the 2022 season. Really didn't do much in the majors before that. In the Garrett Cooper trade, so he got traded to the Miami Marlins, and also struggled after that trade as well. He had a 7.62 ERA in 13 innings in 2023, but had a full season sample size in a breakout year in 2024. You could say a 2.1 pitching WAR in 86 innings, only allowed 35 runs, had 80 strikeouts, and a 3.63 ERA in 16 starts. It was an incredible season. Weathers has looked all right again in 2025, so I'm going to give this pick a C, but if he keeps this up, this is definitely going to be into the B grade, just because, like I said, this top 10 has been so bad, and we're about to get to so many worse picks. So the Atlanta Braves took Carter Stewart out of high school with the 8th overall pick, and the pitcher did not sign with the Atlanta Braves, so they ended up getting a comp pick for the 2019 draft. That put them at the 9th overall selection. So I'm just going to give this pick a C or an incomplete. It would have been a little bit worse if the 2019 pick wasn't great, and that ended up being Shea Langoliers, who they were able to include in the Matt Olson trade a couple years later. So for the pick, Stewart specifically, yeah, I can't put a grade on it because he didn't sign, but they were able to at least hit on the 2019 pick in Shea Langoliers. And here's probably the worst pick of this draft. So I just mentioned how the Atlanta Braves got a comp pick because Carter Stewart did not sign with them. Well, the Oakland Athletics with the 9th overall pick drafted Kyler Murray out of Oklahoma. And since Kyler Murray did not officially decline to sign, it's just because he chose to play in the NFL, they did not get a compensation pick for the 2019 draft. So they basically just lost out on a top 10 pick. I don't know if this was John Fisher saying, I don't want to pay a top 10 pick in this draft, so just draft somebody that's not going to play in the MLB, so we don't have to worry about paying him right now or somebody next year. Either way, I have to give it an F. You just drafted somebody that chose to pick a different sport. It would have been really cool in a different alternate universe where Kyler Murray's playing in Major League Baseball, but that did not happen. Terrible waste of a number 9 overall. Wasn't much better at number 10, where the Pittsburgh Pirates took Travis Swagerty, a outfield prospect out of South Alabama. Travis Swagerty has a combined 9 at-bats in his career, and that was in the 2022 season when he was a 24-year-old. He's currently on the New York Mets in their minor league system and is currently on the injured list. This is an F of a pick at number 10. So we have a solid pick here at number 11. The Baltimore Orioles took Grayson Rodriguez, the high school pitching prospect out of Texas. I'm going to give this selection a B-. I want to give it a little bit better of a grade, but Grayson Rodriguez hasn't really achieved too much in Major League Baseball. He was one of the top pitching prospects at one point in his career and had a 4.35 ERA in his debut season in 2023 in 122 innings. Last year in 2024, he was solid in 116 innings, a 3.86 ERA, a 13-4 record, a 1.4 WAR, but then injuries have been piling up on his career. We have yet to see him here in 2025, and hopefully he is not going to be out for pretty much a abysmal year for the Baltimore Orioles as a whole. So it's getting a B- just because of the concerns that he hasn't been healthy in a little bit. Next up here for the Toronto Blue Jays, they took Jordyn Groshans, the shortstop prospect out of Magnolia High School in Texas at number 12. I'm going to give this an F Groshans never played a single game for the Toronto Blue Jays. He only has 65 career plate appearances, and that was in 2022 for the Miami Marlins because he was traded by the Toronto Blue Jays in the 2022 offseason in the Anthony Bass and Zach Pop deal. So at least they were able to get some relief help for him, but this pick overall, it's an F. And then Miami's going to follow this up with another F pick as well. They took Connor Scott, the outfield prospect from Plant High School in Florida, at number 13. He didn't end up playing a single game in the majors now as a 25-year-old. He's currently on the Kansas City Royals, has bounced around on a couple teams now in the minors, but just has never made it to the majors. So I have to give it an F because the next pick is probably one of, if not the best pick here in the first round. The Seattle Mariners selected Logan Gilbert, the pitching prospect out of Stetson College. Now, there's been another Stetson pitcher that has worked out very well in the MLB because he was a shortstop by the name of Jacob deGrom turned pitcher, and Logan Gilbert being the 14th overall pick has to be an A+. He is somebody that has turned into borderline a top 10 pitcher in Major League Baseball and has been insanely consistent since the 2022 season. He debuted in 2021, but in 2022, he fully broke out a 3.2 WAR season, a 3.28 ERA in 185 innings. Then he followed up that year with 190 innings in 2023 with a 3.73 ERA, and then led the MLB in innings in 2024 with 208 innings, led the MLB in WHIP, and had a 2.8 WAR season, a 3.23 ERA. He got off to another good start in his first 30 innings this year for the Mariners, currently on the 15-day IL, but like I said, has turned into one of the best pitchers in baseball and is arguably and probably the best pick in the first round of the 2018 draft. Job well done, Jerry Dipoto. Because then it was a run on pitching prospects here, as Cole Winn was the following pick out of Orange Lutheran High School in California by the Texas Rangers. I'm going to give this a D. Cole Winn at one point was a very top tier pitching prospect, but it never really worked out to being a full-time starter. He appeared in 13 games last year as a reliever for Texas, 17 innings, had a 7.79 ERA. He hasn't given up a run in his 2 innings in the third year in 2025, but I still think he could be an okay reliever going forward. That's why I'm making it a D and not an F. And maybe if I did a regrade here for the 2018 draft a year or two ago, this pick wouldn't be as good by the Tampa Bay Rays. And at number 16, they took Matthew Liberatore, the high school pitching prospect out of Mountain Ridge High School in Arizona. Matthew Liberatore was obviously traded in the Randy Arozarena trade back in January of 2020. So Matthew Liberatore debuted for the Cardinals in the 2022 season, struggled with a 5.97 ERA, struggled again in 2023, got a little bit better in 2024 with some tweaks and was a little bit more healthy, and he came out of the pen a lot more, 86 innings, and had a 4.4 ERA, and has been a starter here in 2025, where in 52 innings, he's got a 2.92 ERA and might be finally breaking out as a 25-year-old. So I'm going to give this pick a B by the Tampa Bay Rays. The following pick was made by the Los Angeles Angels, and they took Jordyn Adams, a high schooler out of Green Hope High School in North Carolina. This is going to be an F. Adams did play in 2023 and in 2024 for the LA Angels. He combined for 78 plate appearances and a 421 OPS. He's currently on the Baltimore Orioles in their minor league system, and yeah, I gotta give it an F. Just hasn't done anything in the majors and didn't do anything for the LA Angels. So I mentioned before how Jonathan India was traded for another player here that we were going to mention, and that was the Kansas City Royals first round pick out of the University of Florida there at number 18 in Brady Singer. So it is really cool that they were traded for each other. They both played at Florida together, and Brady Singer really broke out in that 2022 season with the Kansas City Royals, where he had a 3.23 ERA, 153 innings pitched. And if you look at his baseball reference, it's kind of wild that he's good in every even year and bad in every odd year. In 2020, when he debuted, a 4.06 ERA, like I said, broke out in 2022, had a good 2024 with a 3.71 ERA, and every odd year of his career, he's had over a 4.91 ERA, so maybe something to look at if you play fantasy baseball. I'm going to give this pick a B, though. At 19, the St. Louis Cardinals ended up taking Nolan Gorman, the third baseman out of Sandra Day O'Connor High School in Arizona. He ended up becoming more of a second baseman at the MLB level. He had a really productive 2023 season, a 236 batting average, but a 478 slugging, 805 OPS, and hit 27 home runs, and is now really turned into a bench player for the St. Louis Cardinals. Unfortunately, he is 25 years old. I'm going to give this pick a C just because I think he could be a fine bench bat throughout the course of his career. Probably not going to live up to the hype of a first rounder, though. With the 20th overall pick, the Minnesota Twins took the outfielder Trevor Larnach out of Oregon State. I'm going to give this selection a B. Larnach has just been a consistent bat for most of his career. He did have 1 year, his rookie year, under a 700 OPS, but it's been above that ever since. He had his best year in 2024, where he had 15 home runs, 52 RBIs, he walked 40 times, a 259 batting average, and a 338 OBP. This year he's got around a 740 OPS right now, and it's just like I said, been a consistent bat for the Twins since being drafted, and consistency at around league average, you're going to get pretty much a B because of how volatile this 2018 first round was. And another player that I'm going to give a B to was the 21st pick, another hitter, a shortstop out of Santiago High School in California by the Milwaukee Brewers, and that is Brice Turang. Brice Turang is 25 years old. He's one of the best base stealers in Major League Baseball. He stole 50 bags last year. He's already stolen 13 this year, and has a 297 batting average. He's hit a little bit more for power this year, already at 4 home runs. He was a 4.7 WAR player last year, so me giving him a B might be a little bit underrating him. You can let me know in the comments if you disagree. Colorado Rockies took a pitching prospect out of Ole Miss here at 22, Ryan Rolison. So yeah, anytime the Rockies take a pitching prospect, you kind of have to downgrade their value in their long-term career. Rolison is 27 years old and has debuted with the Rockies here in 2025. He's only pitched 4 innings in the MLB, a 6.23 ERA. The fact that he made it to the majors and could be something, I'll give it a D, but there's a chance this could end up becoming an F like the next pick. And that is going to be made by the New York Yankees, a team that has drafted well over the last few years. They're getting an F for taking Anthony Seigler, a catcher out of Cartersville High School. Definitely did not turn out as good as maybe an Austin Wells or a Ben Rice. Seigler never made it to the majors and is currently on the Milwaukee Brewers. He's 25 years old and is currently playing for AAA Nashville. Similar vibe to the Brice Turang pick is the Chicago Cubs, a division rival of the Milwaukee Brewers. They selected Nico Hoerner, the shortstop out of Stanford, and I'm going to give this selection a B as well. Hoerner, like Turang, has been one of the best base stealers over the last few years. 43 stolen bases in 2023, 31 in 2024, and has already got 10 here in 2025. He's got a 292 batting average, isn't going to hit for a ton of power, but is going to play good defense, steal some bags, and hit for contact. At 25, originally a player that is currently in the NL Central and an infielder like Nico Hoerner and Brice Turang went to the Arizona Diamondbacks in Matt McLean out of Beckman High School in California, but he did not sign with the Arizona Diamondbacks, so they ended up getting the comp pick in the 2019 draft with the 26th overall selection. They took Blake Walston out of New Hanover High School in North Carolina. Walston did debut for the Diamondbacks last year. He's currently on the 60-day IL, so this is like an incomplete/C just because their original pick did not sign. At 26, the Boston Red Sox ended up taking an infielder out of American Heritage High School in Florida by the name of Triston Casas. Triston Casas was one of the best first baseman prospects in all of Major League Baseball leading up to his debut in the 2022 season. He really broke out in 2023 though, where he hit 24 home runs and an 856 OPS. Last year he had an 800 OPS as well, but the injuries started to pile up for Casas, and unfortunately this year suffered a freak injury at first base and is going to be out for the rest of the season as a 25-year-old. I'm still going to give this pick a B. I still believe in Casas long term, and if it wasn't for these freakish injuries, he could be one of the best young first basemen in baseball. The Washington Nationals ended up taking a pitcher out of Merritt Island High School in Florida by the name of Mason Denaburg. I'm going to give this an F. Denaburg is still yet to make it to the majors right now, and he was last seen at Single A Fredericksburg for the Washington Nationals in 2024 as a 24-year-old, and it's not likely that he's ever going to debut in the MLB, at least not for the Nationals. Man, I was so high on the 28th overall pick after he was being drafted. Maybe it was just because of his cool name, and that was Seth out of Clemson, the outfielder drafted to the Houston Astros. He was famously in the Zach Greinke trade at the 2019 trade deadline, but I got to give this pick, unfortunately, an F. Beer only played 43 games in his career in 2021 and in 2022 for the Arizona Diamondbacks, and a career 586 OPS and 2 career homers in those 136 plate appearances. At 29, the Cleveland Indians took a catcher out of high school by the name of Bohm. The Canadian catching prospect has been up with the Cleveland Guardians since the 2022 season. He had his best year by far in 2023, where he had an 809 OPS, 11 home runs, and a 470 slugging, but it's been going downhill since they traded away his brother last offseason. I'm going to give this pick a C. He's turned into a fine MLB bat and a catcher that is a good defensive player at least, but just because of the lack of improvement since 2023, I can't really give it a better grade. And then lastly, the LA Dodgers had the 30th overall pick. It's the third and final player that did not sign. Originally, they took JT Ginn, who was later drafted by the New York Mets, who was in the Chris Bassett trade, so they got the last first round comp pick 2019 draft, and they ended up taking Michael Busch, who was turning into a breakout first baseman for the Chicago Cubs this season, but they traded him back in the 2024 offseason for Jackson Ferris, but more importantly, Zaire Hope, who's one of the best prospects in all Major League Baseball as a 20-year-old. So I'm just going to give this an incomplete, but hey, this domino effect of JT Ginn not signing may give them a future all-star one day in Zaire Hope. So that's going to be for me. I hope you guys did enjoy my 2019 regrade. Let me know if you agree or disagree with any of my gradings here. Do you maybe want to adjust my grading process? Maybe I should be a little bit more lenient or maybe be a little bit more harsh. Let me know down below. You can also let me know down below any other MLB drafts you'd like to see me regrade. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.